market above 4,022 points. What do you attribute it to?
Well, we have to look at it from the point of view that it's been hovering about that. We've actually gone above the psychological mark, then 4,000. But also, if you notice that certain counters, there's been active trading. Safaricom, you notice Kenya Airways, there's KCB, you notice Equity Bank. There's been actually active trading amongst those counters.
Let's talk about the counters that were gainers today. Yesterday, definitely, it was KQ, it was Safaricom, it was the East African breweries. Today, it's still KQ, but I want you to just hold that thought. There's also Sasini, NIC, and KDC. What's going on there?
Well, if you look at it from the point of view of performance, results, what is on the ground, a lot of investors are actually taking a backseat and telling themselves, I would rather be investing in that kind of company, because by the look of things, the trend so far has been positive, how the company is running, and then also in terms of positive sentiments within the market. There's been demand for those particular type of counters, generally both from institutional investors as well as individual investors.
I mean, obviously it's curious, a counter like Sasini, although it's one of the largest of the agro processors, there's lots of fear of food inflation creeping in, rising cost of production with fuel prices rising, petrol price hikes in recent days, and just a sense that within the subsector of agricultural stocks, liquidity isn't what it ought to be.
That's one of the things. But if you look at also the Sasini way and how they've been able to consistently perform, irrespective of when there's been instances of drought, they were slightly affected. It also helps with the whole idea of the way they've been able to diversify the product portfolio. Yes, they dealt a lot with the tea products and everything, but also the way the company has been run has able to withstand and with the all the kind of situations that are put before it. And this, looking from a point of view of when you look at the PE, the business model has made it much more interesting for investors to decide that they would want to come on board and have a stake of Sasini.
All right, you want to talk about Kenya Airways, and we know yesterday they did a deal with Boeing to acquire a new fleet for their expansion program. That drove the stock up over 6% yesterday. It seems to have continued into today.
Yes, I think the whole idea about the buying of the new Dreamliners, it puts a positive step, because if you look at it worldwide, there's been the issue of high fuel prices, which have actually made a lot of airlines, if you remember during the economic recession throughout Europe and the US, a lot of airlines were actually downgrading and grounding their fleet. Well, Kenya Airways is looking at from the point of view that, look, this is an opportunity to open up Africa, because as it is when we look at business, Africa is the next frontier. It will be able for one to fly from Cape Town to Cairo, irrespective, and do business in Addis. You'll be able to also do business when you're in the west coast of Africa, when you're looking at Nigeria, Lagos, all the way down to Abuja. And all that boils down to ability to form those interconnectivity, because as it is with the world going forward, the world becoming flat, Africa looking at ideas to be able to open up, you need an airline that is able to connect with various hubs. You have connection maybe with South African Airlines connecting down at Nairobi. You have Egypt Airlines connecting down at Nairobi. But all those connecting points, you need a certain strategic plan if you are to be able to remain forward, because when you look at it, that's the way to go. Travel incomes are improving within African economies. We've leapfrogged certain situations, because right now we are already in a state where we've moved IT-wise. You notice we're already on 3G well, as opposed to following the systematic process.
Yeah, I think we get the point. And I mean, obviously, Kenyan Airways regarded as the third largest airline in Africa as well. What about news that a private equity company, Leapfrog, has bought a stake in APA Insurance?
Well, if you look at it, Leapfrog, the kind of a private equity, I think they also have a stake in a South African insurance company called All Life that specifically offers insurance products to people who are HIV positive. But the key thing about it here is that they've looked at insurance is still very, very poor in terms of penetration within the wider market. Very few people have the benefits of insurance. So with this, what APA is trying to do is to package products that will actually diversify its reach within the Kenyan market, to not just merely dealing with the middle income, to actually go to the low income. because that's the next market. And the same way equity was able to penetrate the bottom of the pyramid, APA as well as other insurance companies like British American are looking at packaging products that you'd be getting insurance for as little as 1,000 Kenyan shillings. But to do that, you need first that ability to have the capital, to have the ability, because more or less what you're looking at is subsidizing this kind of insurance to be able to roll out the products.
Just
And
on this point as well, Waiyaki, are you privy to the technicalities of the deal? Because we're told of Leapfrog buying a stake, but we're also reading reports that Pan-African Insurance would be selling its stake of 39% in APA, and then you'd be seeing either shares being offered through an IPO or some other sort of a buyback strategy by APA. Are you aware of how this entire process is going to work?
Well, I would give it from the point of view of the way they've looked at it is Leapfrog would be looking at between 4 to 5 years coming on board, helping APA diversify. Because when you look at it in the terms of general insurance, APA is the second largest insurance in the market. So this will help it also increase in terms of its diversification when you look at it across the East African market. So by that, I would say that they're looking at more or less diversifying. APA will have more money to help them actually expand.